Please, I invite the good morning, everybody, and welcome to this conference. Welcome from IIPS and Organizing Committee. I will now request our guests to come to the dais. I request Chief Guest Mr. Bantia Saab. I request Dr. James. I request Mr. Tino. Please come to the dais. Please. I request all our audience to give a big round of applause to our guests. Namaskar. Good morning. Welcome to IIPS from different parts of India, from outside India. All our guests have come here. So welcome to this conference on international migration, labor migration in Asia. This is the first major activity of the Salam. Before I will tell you what is Salam later on. So before we start the program formally, so I will request all our dignitaries in the dais to, because whenever you start a big program or any auspicious program, we try to light the lamp. The significance is when you light the lamp, that is the sign of light and it removes the darkness and all the obstacles from the path. That is the meaning of that. So before that, I request our dignitaries to formally light the lamps and formally inaugurate the conference. Please. Thank you, sir. Now I'll have a little felicitation to our guests. I'll request Gotika, please offer a bouquet to our chief guest. I'll request our director to honor Mr. Jambantia, sir. And a memento, I request memento, Bantia. This is a small token of gesture from our IAPS to you, sir. Now I will request Rukmi, our intern, please offer a bouquet. Yeah, you can. Mr. Dino is our keynote speaker from ILO Delhi, South Asia. Dino, and a memento. I request our session Salam coordinator Kokila to offer a bouquet to our director, Professor James. Please, Kokila. This is not for you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, and for the kind gesture. Let me briefly tell about this conference because as all of you know that we have a center. It's called South Asia Center. South Asia Center for Labor Mobility and Migrants. It's short form is SALAM. And this SALAM came into existence in 2021. It was the joint effort of our 7 partner organizations, 3 UN partner organizations, ILO, IOM, and UN Women. They here, Mr. Amis and Dino are here, but other 2 partners will join online from Sri Lanka and Bangladesh will join online. So they were our the inspiration. Initially, they came with the idea. And we have 7 partner organizations in Asia, South Asia, and Europe and North America. We have Ramru from Bangladesh, Professor Abrar is here, so big applause from Professor Abrar. And we have also Mr. Deepak Thapaji from Nepal, big applause from Deepak Thapaji. And we have also IPS Sri Lanka, she could not join due to some family emergency, but she will join online. And we have also SDPI Pakistan, Islamabad, they will also join online. So these are the 5 partner organizations who have joined, who have signed MOU with them. And IFS is the secretariat headquarters. And we are trying to coordinate. Plus, we have also 2 more universities, University of California, Berkeley. They have also signed MOU with you for joint research on labor migration in South Asia. Plus, we have also United Nations University, Maastricht, Netherlands. They have also signed MOU with you. So currently, we are 7 partner universities from 7 different countries who are working together on this SALAM. And we have a very 5 to 6 thematic areas. We are working on gender, we are working on remittance and development, we are working on climate change and migration, we are working on labor migration process, all the gamuts of migration process. Initially, we are working on migration, but it is not limited to migration. Later on, it will expand to other areas of migration also. So I think this is the only beginning. A lot of activities we are doing in the Salam, we are doing research, joint interns exchange program, faculty exchange program. We have starting newsletters. We are writing thematic papers on South Asia perspective. A lot of things we have started, and this is only the first time conference have started this labor migration. As you know that all the South Asian countries, they constitute about 25% or 1/4 of the global population. They are very densely populated, and these are the migration sending countries. Basically, they are not receiving countries. So they send a significant amount of migration to the Gulf countries, to the European countries, other North American countries. So and they receive a significant amount of remittance in terms of from their migrants. I think remittance plays a very important role in their countries' GDP and development. India is the #1 country in the receiving the remittance. It receives $100 billion in the 2022. It's the #1 country for the last 10 years. I think that they play, though they are very significant. India, the total number of international migrants is around 2 crores or 20 million, but they play a very significant part in terms of their development influence. I think that this international labor migration, international migration to South Asian countries is become very, very important. That is why all the UN partner agencies, they came together and tried to have an institutional framework and developing an knowledge hub in South Asia, which is exclusively work on migration. So this is we have a 3-day deliberations, and we have around 120 research papers, 3 plenary sessions, 1 poster session. So we have a lot of exciting sessions for 3 days. I will not take much time. So without taking much time, I will request our director, Professor James, to welcome the guest and give his welcome remark. Thank you, sir.
Sri J.K. Bandia, the former Chief Secretary, as well as former Registrar General of India, and Mr. Inaugural, Labor Migrant Specialist, ILO, Mr. K.C. Das, Professor and Coordinator of the Salam Project, distinguished invitees, the participants, delegates, and dear friends. Good morning and welcome to this 3-day international conference, which is on the topic labor migration and sustainable development opportunities, challenges, and way forward. Let me at the outset say how pleased I am to see many of the friends, many of the participants are gathered here to participate in this 3-day national or international conference, which is on a very, very important topic. Professor K.C. Das has already mentioned about the importance as well as the activities which we are undertaking as part of the program or as part of the center, which is called the Salam Center. I'm also extremely pleased to see the presence of Mr. J.K. Bandia as well as Dina Korel, who are, I think, Bandia is well known for the expertise in the data, especially the various aspects of the data and also the migration data. And Dino, who is a well-known expert in the area of labor migration in the world. So thank you both for joining. As well as, let me also take this opportunity to thank the Salam Center, because I think it is primarily their initiative. Since the last 2 years, they have been carrying out several programs for actually enhancing the research as well as the collaboration between different partner organizations in the area of labor mobility. So the entire team of Salam needs applaud as well as appreciation during this time for organizing this conference. I know labor migration can be viewed from a very, very varied angle. So we always say, being a demographer, we always look at perhaps at 2 different lenses now. I see the literature on that. One, often the lens is that definitely there is a scarcity of laborers in different parts of the country or different parts of the world, primarily motivated by the demographic changes. So naturally, you need to adjust the population, you need to adjust the labor, so there will be a migration which is natural corollary of the, you can say, the demographic changes which is happening in this world. The other view perhaps is that it is also something called, and you can say, inevitable part of a demographic changes. If you really look at what is really happening in any parts of the country or any parts of the world, for wherever there is a demographic changes happening, you also see an increasing aspiration among the parents, increasing aspiration among the families. So natural that the families or the children migrate to have better opportunities, to get better jobs, better education, and so on and so forth. That is why if you really look at the data now, just nearly that I was actually my last lecture in IASP on John Simmons Memorial Lecture, I was looking at the data. If you look at the family, how many families have actually children with them now in India? You can just look at the data. It has become very minuscule now because many of your parents, if you are parents, none of your children will be living with you because of the aspiration. The children will be sent out for education. Children will be sent out for the better employment opportunities. And not only in India and abroad, if I look at my colleagues in IITs, I think most of their children will be studying in abroad because they are working in abroad. That is the case with many of the parents, middle class parents in this country now. This is not only in India, it is happening in the entire Southeast Asian region, because earlier we thought this is particularly only relevant for Kerala or Tamil Nadu. Now we say that UP and Bihar is coming out of the major areas of migration sending states in the country. So this is sort of a very rapid changes which is happening if you really look at it in a very purely demographic perspective. But I know an economist look at entirely differently because for the economists, there is a real macro and micro changes which is happening because remittances is a huge inflow which is happening in this country. There is also a regional imbalance which we can really look at through a migration process. You can also study living standards improvement through migration. So there are various ways an economist perhaps will look at it. A sociologist might perhaps will look at how actually it's affecting the family, how it is actually affecting the households, and all those things are really the other way. So intrinsically, this is a topic which needs a multidisciplinary approach. This is a topic which we really need to really understand in a very holistic way. So that is why such a conference really makes much more importance in the recent times when we are really living in a period where there is rapid changes are happening, not only in the field of demography, but in the field of several other development and economic arena. So not only that, I think the numbers which actually Professor Das was also mentioning is very intriguing now because India has become almost the highest sending country in this world with almost, I think, 18 million people are expected to be outside the country, and almost 2.5 million perhaps every year is added. And India is also having the highest remittance receiving country in this world, much higher than China, which we were earlier competing, but is no more. China is even ever close to us now. And even within India, almost 30 to 40% of the people, at least their place of birth is different from their place of enumeration. I think this is a huge change which we are really looking at present in terms of the migration. So the numbers keep apart. The numbers gives you some idea, but at the same time, it also means that there is a need for increasing understanding of this issue. I think perhaps this conference, I'm sure, will really lead to a deliberation which is appropriate, which is meaningful to understand what are the issues, because otherwise, many often we are really depending on social media now. We are always depending on social media telling that, okay, a dead body of the Indians in abroad could not be brought or something. All these things are really at the realm of the journalist, but not at the realm of the research at present. So it is very important that these kinds of conferences will discuss, deliberate, and also find solutions to many of the issues of migrants in this country as well as in the South Asian region. I'm extremely pleased that, Professor J.K. Bandya is with us. I think his insights will be immensely useful, especially when we really start launching this 3-day conference today. So thank you for joining and welcome to this 3-day conference, and thank you for agreeing to be the chief guest at the inaugural session. Let me also thank and as well as welcome Dino. I think he has visiting for the first time to Mumbai. I think welcome to Mumbai, as well as he has joined at the ILO India office perhaps less than a year back. So welcome to India, as well as welcome to Mumbai and IIPS. I'm sure your presence will be valued, as well as your insights will be quite useful for the 3-day deliberation. Let me also take this opportunity to welcome all the international partners of us, ILO, I think IOM and UN Women. I think both IOM and UN Women could not join us, but I am sure their presence will be there in online in many of these programs, as well as our partners, organizations from different South Asian countries. I think some of them have joined, some of them may be joining online, but also all the distinguished participants. Welcome to all of you, and I wish you all the best, a meaningful deliberation in the coming 3 days. Thank you and welcome once again.
Thank you, sir. And now we're going to formally release our abstract books. So I request our guests come to the ground, and I request Professor James Bantia and Professor James, Mr. Professor Abra, Deepak ji, and Arsana, Dr. Resmi, Dr. Kunal, please come to the down. We'll release the formally the abstract. Sir, please first come down. Yeah.
Hello. 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 Hello.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, everybody. So we have also the soft copy of the, we are not giving the abstract because we are now becoming environmental friendly. So we have released, printed very little books, 20, 30 copies only for release and library. So all others, you are requested to access the abstracts for the online mode because we are now going to eco-friendly modes. Okay, thanks. And now I request Amreen, please introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Dino, please.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Dino Corral has an extensive background working as a consultant and specialist in various United Nations agencies, primarily focusing on labor migration, program and regional coordination. They have made significant contributions to organizations such as UNODC, United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, and the ILO, International Labour Organization. In his early career, he worked as a consultant for the UNODC's regional program for Southeastern Europe during 2010 to 2012. Later, in 2013, he joined the ILO, served as a program analyst in the ILO Office for United Nations in New York, USA. In 2018, he took the position of Employment and Migration Officer in the ILO Office for Nigeria, Ghana, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and ECOWAS, that is ECOWAS, November 2022. The individual has been serving as a labor migration specialist in the ILO Decent Work Team for South Asia and Country Office for India in New Delhi. Mr. Dino Correll currently holds the position of Labor Migration Specialist in ILO Decent Work Team for South Asia and Countries Office for India based in Delhi, India. He contributed to the development and implementation of labor-related programs and policies in collaboration with the other UN entities, supporting countries in addressing employment and migration challenges. Thank you.
Thanks, Amreen. Now I will request Mr. Dino to give the keynote address.
Good morning. Let me first of all thank you for the very warm and nice introduction. I'm very honored to be here, and I would also like to thank both on behalf of my colleague Amish and myself, the Institute, and Professor James in particular, also Professor Das, of course, for the welcoming us so friendly here to Mumbai and to the Institute. It's a great pleasure to be here. Shri J.K. Bantia, former Chief Secretary, Professor K.S. James, Director, International Institute of Population Sciences, Professor K.C. Das, representative of the South Asia Center for Labor Migration, Mobility and Migrants, SALAM, esteemed experts, academics, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank the organizers for inviting the ILO to this timely international conference on labor migration and sustainable development. Opportunities, challenges, and the way ahead, organized by SALAM. Since its inception in November 2021, SALAM has presented a unique opportunity to bring together academic institutions and think tanks from South Asia to address gaps and knowledge gaps in particular in the area of labor migration in the region. The governance of labor migration in South and Southeast Asia program goals, jointly implemented by the International Labour Organization together with IOM and UN Women, is happy to support this initiative, which represents an innovative approach to building the evidence base on labor migration in South Asia. We are indeed pleased to see SALAM taking the initiative, including through organizing this conference, which brings together experts, researchers, and academics to present and disseminate knowledge developed both within and beyond the network, and to promote evidence-based labor migration governance in the region. I think the level of participation and the interest in this conference here today illustrates that this is indeed a very timely and relevant topic to address. International labor migration, migration from one country to another for the purpose of employment, is a feature of both contemporary labor markets, but also of the future of work. When properly governed, labor migration can contribute to sustainable development for countries of origin, transit, and destination, and provide benefits and opportunities for migrant workers and their families. I think some of those have been mentioned earlier this morning already. It may balance labor supply and demand, help develop and transfer skills at various levels, contribute to social protection systems, foster innovation, and enrich communities. migration can also become a climate resilience and adaptation strategy. Without proper governance frameworks, however, labor migration also presents risks and challenges with regards to informality, brain drain, displacement, forced labor, trafficking in persons, or safety and health hazards and other decent work deficits. The consequences of climate change frequently act as a contributing factor for the decision to migrate. While the increase of unplanned and unsafe migration can have serious negative impacts, both on the rights of migrants and the environment. The COVID-19 pandemic, as we have all witnessed, has had a devastating impact on migrant workers and their access to fair recruitment or decent work. In 2019, the estimated stock of international migrants globally was 272 million, of which some 169 million were considered to be international migrant workers. While Northern, Southern, and Western Europe, North America, and the Arab states host the majority of international migrant workers, the Asia and Pacific region ranks first with regard to the origin of international migrants. The ILO estimates that migrant workers constitute some 5% of the global workforce, representing an integral part of the world economy. The labor force participation rate of migrants, at almost 70%, tends to be higher than the labor force participation of non-migrants, at around 60%. Sector figures show that most migrant workers, some 65%, are in services, with 26% in industry and some 7% in agriculture. The proportion of migrant workers of the labor force is higher in high-income countries at around 18% than in low and middle-income countries at around 2.5%. At the same time, the share of migrant workers in high-income countries has fallen, while the share in upper-middle-income countries increased, which may have to do with rising employment opportunities in upper-middle-income countries, demographic change, and evolving migration policies. I think a number of other areas have been mentioned by Professor James this morning, including aspirations. The proportion of migrant workers of the labor force, while women constitute a smaller share of migrant workers, their contribution to the female labor force in destination countries is higher at 5.2%, compared to that of migrant men at 4.6%. In the respective male labor force. In case of women migrant workers, almost 80% are in services, 14.2% in industry, and some 6% in agriculture. A higher representation of women migrant workers in services may, in part, be explained by a growing demand in the care economy, including health and domestic work. These subsectors have predominantly female labor force and rely heavily on women migrant workers. Women can experience gender discrimination in the labor market, and lack of social networks can make it difficult to reconcile work and family life in a foreign country. When options for safe and regular pathways are lacking, some people may leave for reasons of health or survival. The adverse effects of climate change, unequal access to economic and social rights, including healthcare and decent work, food, land, or water, unequal opportunities, or gender inequality and gender-based violence, can all be reasons for people to move through irregular migration channels. Such channels increase migrant workers' vulnerability to exploitation and human rights violations, and can undercut wages and working conditions. Irregularity tends to increase vulnerability to trafficking and exploitation, discrimination, and other violations of human rights, including labor rights. Yet, irregularity does not mean that migrant workers have no rights, or that these rights should not be respected. All migrants retain their human rights, regardless of migration status. Maximizing the benefits of labor migration and minimizing associated risks or social costs requires sound and effective labor migration governance. In a broad sense, labor migration policy is a range of institutional structures, such as legislation, strategic documents, action plans, and budgets, and practices, such as implementation regulations, that regulate labor mobility. Policy responses should be guided by international labor standards and fundamental principles and rights at work, and be based on reliable data and evidence that address the unique challenges of different regions and actors. And I think this point is particularly relevant in the context of the conference here today. To promote decent work in the context of labor mobility, adequate consultation should take place with workers and employers' organizations. The governance of labor migration can be advanced, including through respecting the human rights, including labor rights of all migrants, addressing gender-based discrimination, both in law and practice, promoting skills development and recognition, including of prior learning, addressing irregularity, exploitation, discrimination, and abuse, ensuring fair recruitment and equal treatment of migrant workers, promoting access to social protection for migrant workers and their families, advancing labor migration data and statistics, promoting bilateral labor migration agreements, promoting social dialogue, supporting the labor market integration of returning migrants, facilitating pathways for those who are on the move due to climate change, formulating migration schemes and regional integration processes, and placing attention on internal migrant workers who share many of the vulnerabilities of international migrant workers, but tend to remain less attended to. The protection of migrant workers has been a key objective of the ILO since its inception. It has pioneered the development of specific international standards for the governance of labor migration and the protection of migrant workers. ILO conventions, protocols, and recommendations apply to all workers, regardless of their nationality. The ILO also developed non-binding principles and guidelines that are relevant to labor migration, including fair recruitment in the areas of fair recruitment, and more recently on labor market reintegration upon return in countries of origin, which can also be relevant for internal migrants going back to their areas of origin. In closing, let me express again my appreciation for the organization of this conference, which provides a valuable opportunity to share knowledge and exchange best practices. I look forward to engaging presentations and discussions over the coming 3 days, and to continued collaboration around labor migration with Salam and all stakeholders present here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dino, for highlighting the issues of labor migration, why it is important and what is the importance increasing, and why should we have all the stakeholders do the research and the policy implications, sensitize the policymakers. Thank you very much. Now I will request Ms. Rukmi, our intern, please to introduce our chief guest, Mr. Bantia. Rukmi, please.
Thank you, sir. Shri Jayakumar Bandya, an IAS officer from the 1977 batch, has a distinguished career and has held prominent positions. He served as the Chief Secretary of the Government of Maharashtra with a master's degree in chemistry from Kanpur University and another master's degree in demography from the London School of Economics. His educational background reflects a diverse range of expertise. Before assuming the role of Chief Secretary, he held the position of Additional Chief Secretary in the Public Health Department of the Government of Maharashtra. Shri Bandya has a diverse professional background. He served as the Chief Technical Advisor to the United Nations Population Fund in Nigeria for over 4 years. Prior to that, he held the position of Registrar General and Census Commission of India from 1999 to 2004, playing a key role in the successful implementation of the 2001 census. During his tenure as Chief Secretary, Mr. Bandya spearheaded the activation of the Mumbai First Group, a public-private partnership involving top corporates in Mumbai and government officials from Maharashtra and India. He held several important positions like Assistant Collector of Osmanabad and Bid, Collector of Nagpur and Bandara, and Managing Director of Maharashtra State Textile Corporation while serving in Maharashtra. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And I request our chief guest, Mr. Bantia, to address our guest. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. It's a privilege to be here back at IIPS, where at least I'm recognized as a demographer and not as an IAS officer. I'm very happy to be here. Although the invitation card mentioned my bureaucratic role, but I've spent considerable time in the study of population in various aspects. I've been lucky to serve four censuses of India, 81, 91, 2001, and 2011. The next one is anybody's guess. I had the privilege also of working in Myanmar, most recently in Palestinian census in Lebanon and Nigeria. So I feel very much at home coming here. I was a bit unsure because of some commitments, and I kept everybody on the tenterhooks, but they were very patient with me and tolerated. But luckily, I am here. Director IIPS, Professor James, organizer of this wonderful conference, Professor Das, the ILO representative here, Mr. Dorel, distinguished participants from Southeast Asia, distinguished faculty present and past of IIPS, experts, students, participants. It's a privilege, as I said, to be here. I was a bit unclear when I read the title which Professor Nandita and Professor Das had sent to me. Labor migration and sustainable development Asia, opportunities, challenges, and way forward. So it was very clear to me we are not talking about migration, but we are talking about a subset of a migration, which is basically the labor migration. Although we are going to see from the various presentations that there is obviously an element outside the labor migration, which is on the focus also. But I wanted to understand, and I wish I had 3 days here. When we are saying labor migration and sustainable development, is there something which is being pointed out that if people migrate in search of economic activities, which is what labor would be, are they sort of a threat to sustainable development? That was not very clear to me, honestly. I don't think it should be, because traditionally we were talking about various migration streams which have taken place, and I would like to deal with them. But the title is suggesting, therefore, are there opportunities? And what are the challenges which the migrant labor puts on the sustainable development? I'm pretty sure there will be a couple of papers or maybe more on this. What are the opportunities for a migrant labor to encourage sustainable development? Are they encroaching upon more land, more water in an already challenging area? These are some of the issues, and I'm pretty sure the conference is going to deliberate on that. Well, Professor James has welcomed Dino here. So Mumbai is the land of migrants. Let us be very clear on this. Although the current configuration of Mumbai possibly suggests that the natural growth will be outstripped by the migrant work. It's no longer the case, which was there till almost 1970s, maybe even 1980s. There are very eminent demographers here who have talked about the impact of migrants as such on the issues of growth, and how much does the natural growth, birth minus the deaths contribute, and how much the labor migrants contribute. But it's a very important to understand this historical background in the country for the last 300 years. At least I'm a historical demographer also, so it's something very I'm interested in. The three presidency towns of Calcutta, Madras, and Mumbai, all of them over the years, particularly in the 18th, 19th century and to some part of the 20th century, have grown because of the labor migrants. So there's no doubt about it. How things have changed is something which demographers need, not this particular conference, I'm sure. Also, in major part of the 18th and 19th century, families were a very important cause of migration. And it's very important to understand because obviously people were looking for work. The agriculture had been adversely affected because of the monsoons. And these were sustained periods of failure of monsoons extending to 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So there was this whole issue about the impact of migration, and one of the more Indo-file demographers, Tim Dyson and myself and some others have worked largely on that, actually, the impact of famine on migration and other things. But we are not talking about that. In the Indian context, it is also to understand the social structure. And under the various components of the social structure, where we classify the people into various social groups, there's a very prominent group, the nomadic tribes. The very word nomadic itself signifies that they were migrants. And they were migrants because either they were having any animal husbandry occupations, largely cattle and other things, or otherwise. They were also doing small time occupations as well, etc. Now, what has happened to the nomadic tribes in the country? More and more governments have intervened, given them land, they've got more educated, etc. So, if a particular set of community identifies itself as a nomadic tribe, it is for historical reasons, largely it appears now, rather than what they were identified for. Most of them have settled possibly, etc. It's a small number. And how small it is somebody's guess, but just one can make some intelligent guesses. We are also talking about migration within the country and internationally because of disturbances in day-to-day life. Most recent example is the Northeast, what has happened, so how it is going to impact. A couple of weeks back, all of us must have been attracted by the news about some WhatsApp or whatever viral media was showing about migrant laborers in Tamil Nadu who had come from northern India. And there was a whole issue about the language issue and the cultural issue, etc. Whereas Tamil Nadu government defended it, saying that no, they are welcome here, etc. So there has been these aspects about labor migration, which important to understand how they impact, particularly as a demographer involved with censuses. Prior to the census, post-census, these affect population distribution, among other things. I'm pretty sure there are a lot of these papers on some of these subjects. A couple of weeks back, Professor James and myself, both of us were in a common conference at the School of Economics for Nursing Munji, where we were asked to speak our mind on the opportunities and challenges for the demographic dividend in the country. Obviously, there are too many aspects, but let us restrict to how the population growth is going to be occurring in the next 30 years, how it has happened, and how it has impacted the labor migrants as well. A large benefit arising out of the demographic dividend for India and its states obviously is going to have a huge impact on labor migration. And again, it is going to bring administrative, political, and social issues with that. So there's no denial that the theme of the conference is extremely relevant in the Indian context, more so for the next 30 years, in my view at least. We are very well aware of the huge labor migration which took place in the 20th century post 1950s, 1957, Chinese migration, which devastated the country in some sense largely because of the famine which occurred subsequent to the then policies. And again, what we have seen about the migration to the cities, the growth of the urban areas in China post 1990. So there are obviously a lot of issues related which are extremely relevant. We are aware of the historical European migration to the New World, both from Europe and from Africa to various parts of the world. IIPS is the premium institute in the country for population studies, and I'm pretty sure these are aspects which are being dealt with by the faculty, visiting faculty, and the students, and there are a lot of exciting things to be worked on, if not already worked on. But I'm also concerned about what Professor James mentioned, and all of us aware that India is officially more or less the most populated nation on the earth. And we are seeing presence of Indians across. And it's likely that more and more Indians will be visible in different parts of the world. And taking into account the elderly population in Europe and several other countries in Oceania, for example, will require health workers for migration. It's a different kind of a migration which is going to take place over there. On one hand, these are some of the themes. On the other hand, the whole issue about artificial intelligence challenging the way we are working today. If more and more robots are going to come, what will happen to workers in general is another issue which is obviously requires a lot of discussion. So it's a exciting, challenging, very daunting field to answer each one of these questions, even in parts. I'll bring myself back to the sustainability issue and the labor migrants more with the Indian context, because I think it will be important, not only because of the large number of participants from within the country, but also from the neighboring countries. When we used to do the population census in India, we do in 2 steps: the house listing operation, which precedes the population enumeration by a period of anywhere between 6 months to 8 months. And one of the striking features as early as when I was the director census here, and I remember Professor Srinivas was also here, and Shireen and several others were here, we were discussing that there are a couple of districts in Maharashtra which are in the rain shadow area, Marathwada, if those who are familiar with the geography of Maharashtra, which is central Maharashtra, where there is a huge labor migration takes place for the sugarcane industries in Maharashtra. And it itself creates a huge problem. And the migration occurs sometime after September, once the Kharif season is over, October, November, and they go to parts of Western Maharashtra, Northern Maharashtra, and Gujarat. And the population of that particular districts drops down by at least 20% for 6 months. And it brings its own huge administrative issues in terms of providing food on the ration cards, education to the children, what happens to the young children, only elderly people are left behind. So there are several issues when you are in population studies, you come across for various reasons, and I'm trying to put forward for consideration if these papers are addressing some of these issues. But agriculture is more and more getting settled down, more and more areas are getting irrigated. Therefore, what is the impact of the agriculture laborers, particularly from the northern states of UP and Bihar, which used to feed the agriculture labor component to the states of Punjab and Haryana? And the 2 censuses of 2001 and 2011 again demonstrate that there is a huge change over there. So these are very interesting aspects which come out of very traditional census data which Professor James talked about, and also insights while you are working in the field. Coming back to Maharashtra and to more and more industrial growth, those of us who are familiar with the revolution which has taken place of pushing the industries from the metropolises to the hinterlands, almost all the states in the country have developed industrial centers. Maharashtra, for example, is MIDC and Gujarat is GSSIDC. And large lands of government or private have been taken and converted to industrial states. Those of us who are familiar with something within the periphery of 30 kilometers from here know the amount of industries which are there in suburbs of Mumbai and in the neighboring districts of Thane, etc. While the governments promoted setting up of the industries and migrant laborers came of all kinds, virtually there was no scheme for their housing, and which has created huge slum pockets for them. So when policies which Dan talked about, ILO policies and state policies, etc., there are obviously very serious gaps. While the state would like to promote industry and therefore, as a consequence of that, there is a huge migration. What happens to their housing issues? Do the labor migrants create pressures on urban planning? Obviously, the answer is yes, but how should we get to it? What are their rights also are major issues on this. So I'll try to wind up pointing out at least a couple of issues with the migrant laborers. Pointing out at least a couple of issues with the migrant laborers, which not only as a census commissioner or as a demographer, but also as an administrator I face throughout my life and putting it before the experts here. One of them is the issue about their political rights. How would they vote when they are out of their constituencies? Technology allows many things to do, very fast financial transfers, etc. But the law is very clear. You have to be in your own polling station, not even in your constituency, to vote on that day. So what happened? How does the political rights of the migrant labor gets affected? And are there more solutions to this problem, both technology, legal, and administrative? Fortunately, the issue about the ration card for the migrant laborers has been at least addressed. I'm not saying it is resolved. Now, the government of India, along with the states, are coming out with the mobile ration cards in some sense. Otherwise, it was a big problem. Because the critical issue about the migrant labor is the identity crisis. Nobody knows you in the city of Mumbai. You have come from XYZ state or XYZ village of Maharashtra, nobody knows, etc. Yes, we have the Aadhaar card, etc., etc. But there are obviously several other identities which you require. And therefore, there are such issues. Access to basic amenities on health and education is another issue, which is there. And they do get adversely affected. And obviously, there is the issue of the languages, etc. You have to, migrant labor has to learn the local language in any case, etc. Professor James and myself, we were together last year for something which was extremely sensitive on the OBC Commission. It was around this period that we were trying to battle. The identities were also very important over there. For the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribe, the law is very clear. You are scheduled caste and scheduled tribe within your own state. But there was a huge debate what happens to the OBCs, which are much more fluid. So there are other, it is not addressed particularly to the migrant labor, it's addressed to all the migrants as such, but they are also comprised. So there are political fortunes which affect also how we address the issues of the migrant laborers. I'm pretty sure there are very engaging papers, engaging sessions, parallel sessions which are going to run for the next 3 days. It's a very packed schedule. I would like to congratulate the organizers for this wonderful book, which is the abstract. All the contributors need a round of applause for the wonderful work they have done and coming together, putting it together by Professor Das and his teams. I would like to congratulate them, and I would also like to congratulate the organizers. Particularly would like to thank Professor James and Professor Das for inviting me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your words of wisdom and highlighting the issues from your long experience as an administrator and also as a demographer. We consider him a demographer in IAPS. He is among our demographer fraternity. Thank you, sir, very much. I request now my colleague, Dr. Rasmi, to propose vote of thanks. After vote of thanks, please do not run away. We have a group photograph here. After that, we have tea in the ground floor. So these are the sequence of events. Okay, thank you, Dr. Rasmi.
Respected Shri J.K. Bandia IAS, former Chief Secretary, Government of Maharashtra, as well as former Registrar General and Census Commission of India, Shri Dino Koren, Migration Specialist, International Labour Organization, Geneva, Professor K.S. James, Director and Senior Professor IAPS, Professor K.C. Das, Professor and Head, Department of Migration and Urban Studies and Convener of Salam, distinguished participants, invitees, my colleagues and students, a very good morning to you all. I consider this was a great honor to give vote of thanks to those who all have been involved in organizing this international conference of labor migration and sustainable development in Asia, challenges, opportunities and way forward, organized by Salam IAPS. At the outset, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to Sri J.K. Bandia, who was kind to accept our invitation and come and inaugurate our function. On behalf of Salam IAPS, I would like to thank Sri Dino Koren for coming and giving keynote address to this inaugural function. I also thank Honorable Member of Parliament who kindly, Sri Rahul Shivani, who kindly agreed to come but he could not join us due to his busy schedule. I extend my heartfelt thanks to our partner organization, ILO, IOM and UN Women, especially Mr. Amish Karki, Ms. Nancy Ring and Mr. Andrew Gray for their continuous support and guidance in day-to-day activities of Salam and also in coordinating, organizing this conference. I wish to thank our partner organizations SDPI Pakistan, Sislam Nepal, Ramdu Bangladesh and IPS Sri Lanka and UNU Merit Institute for South Asia Studies, UC Berkeley, for their kind support and guidance in each and every activities of Salam and also in organizing this conference. My special thanks to Professor Sr. Abrar, Professor Deepak Thapa and team for presenting here. Now I wish to thank all the advisory committee members of Salam who have been guiding us since the inception of Salam in various day-to-day activities of Salam. I take this opportunity to extend our sincere gratitude to Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India for their kind support in organizing this conference. I wish to extend my sincere thanks to Professor K.S. James, Director and Senior Professor of IAPS, for his continuous guidance and support in all activities of Salam as well as organizing this conference. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Professor R.B. Bhagat, former head Department of Migration and Urban Studies, for his continuous guidance and also his hard work, which has ultimately led to the launching of this center as a part of IIPS. Thank you very much, sir. I wish to thank Professor K.C. Das for his keen interest and enthusiasm in doing lot of activities under Salam Center in IIPS and also guiding us in organizing this conference. I also would like to express my gratitude to all my faculty colleagues who agreed to coordinate this conference even during vacation, especially Professor Nandita Saikya, Dr. Archana Kujur, Dr. Suresh Jungari, Dr. Ilyas, and also my special thanks to Dr. Shirin Jijiboy ma'am, visiting fellow and retired faculty members, our faculty colleagues who are supporting us by organizing various sessions of this conference. Thank you very much. I wish to thank our accounts team, administration team, IT team for their kind support and help in organizing this conference, especially our CEO, Lieutenant Colonel Sri Prashant Barode, AFO Mr. Aniket Chattopadhyay, IT Manager Mr. Anjali Mishra. A special thanks to Mr. Mohre. And also, of course, this Manjari ma'am for their support, and my special thanks to Mohreji for his continuous support for the last few days, even during late evenings. Thank you very much. I also wish to thank Salam Secretariat Coordinator Ms. Kokila and her team, whose hard work and dedication in organizing each and every activity of Salam and also this conference. I wish to thank all our interns of Salam, student volunteers who have been working for the last few months to make this conference happen. Thank you very much to you all. Last but not the least, I wish to thank all the participants who showed their interest in joining us and they are ready to present their research work in this conference. Once again, thank you all, and my apologies if I missed somebody. Thank you very much.
Thank you everybody. This is inaugural session. Now I will take a group photograph. Please join here. Allah, yeah, please. Yeah. How many? We'll take a photograph. Please, join. Then after that, wait. Allah, Motilal ji, कैसे लगे आप बताइए? आप प्लीज आ जाए कम. Chair कर दीजिए. हाँ, please announce please. Announce कैसे करें? ऐसे मतलब arrangement.
Chairs have been arranged. Some people will sit and some people will stand. Yeah. First, senior people will come. Foreign faculty, our invited guests.
All our senior citizens, they can sit.
Yeah. Yes.
Go ahead. If they are younger, they can stand. Yeah. Professor Abrar, please. Yeah. Say, Sirin madam, please come. Yeah. We want in picture, photographs. Yeah, everyone. पीछे छिड़ा हुआ जाएगा. आगे आ जाइए. यहाँ पढ़ा जाइए. आप लोग पढ़ रहे हैं. अफगानिस्तान. All the participants also, no? Yeah, all the participants. Yes. All the participants, please come. Participants from other countries, from Nepal, from Bangladesh, from USA, please. USA. Yeah. Plus. Yeah, plus all our international participants. I think Prabhakar sir and Kulkarni madam, Basuti madam. Yeah, please come. All the participants. All the Indian participants, please come. सब आ जाइए. We'll adjust here. If you don't come, you stand there. You will never in the picture. You have to come here. If you come here, we'll adjust you. Yeah. Please go. Go again. अरे go. अरे आप जाइए. हाँ, ये जनवरी में मैंने बाय. Please come here, all of you. और पीछे भी आ जाइए. हाँ, आपको आगे रहना.
I will change it. You just.
You can go there. See. मोतीलाल कैसे लेंगे? अच्छा, you can join ना? अच्छा ठीक है. देख लो जैसे लेना ले लो. अंजलि प्लीज कम यार. अरे आपका आईटी भी ना हम कर नहीं पाएंगे. आईटी मैनेजर बस्ट. हाँ सीओ साहब साथ में
आप लोग नेक्स्ट ग्रुप आ जाए प्लीज. कुछ लोग नेक्स्ट आ जाए. सुनो आप नेक्स्ट ग्रुप आ जाइए. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट ग्रुप.
राधा कृष्ण कम.
Okay, ready, smile.
Everybody. I think सब लोग तो आ जाएंगे ना. All have come. Please सब participant leaving. Please come join. Why you are leaving? Come. पीछे यहाँ आ जाए. आगे आ जाए. Come inside. Come inside. सब लोग आगे एक ही जगह. No problem. जस्ट सामने बैठ जाओ ना. हाँ. Yes. Come there. Come inside. उसको माम कर रहे हैं. Everybody smile. Wave. Thank you. Yeah, we have a tea in the ground floor. Please join. And 12 o'clock we have plenary session here. After the tea, everybody please join here. We have plenary session here. Okay. Thank you. 12 o'clock.